But us and these guys to all get together, run the numbers, and find out if there's another way to build a fee structure that is appropriate and applicable to EPA guidelines, standards, law. And if you can't do that, would you mind holding the whole thing in abeyance for 90 days and allow us to do the same? There's a whole different outcome that can handle here. It's just WET wasn't asked to look at that. Well, I'm sorry. I don't know if they were. I'm probably apologizing. I'm making an assumption. But I don't know if they were. And if they were, we'd have a very different discussion right now. So it's an ask. It's 90 days. And I'm not coming to you because I said it. I'm not coming to you with some outside engineer said it. I'm coming to you because EPA says you can do it this way. And that's what's in that document there. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. McKee from the committee? Time for a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a few questions. So you talked about that it's unlikely that the chemical that you stated,
Hydrogen sulfide?
yeah, can be a part of or in this manhole or whatever. It's unlikely, but is it possible?
So it is possible in pipes that are flat.
Okay.
I'm 700 foot above the metro plant. There's not a flat pipe between me and there. My velocity, the other thing about it is velocity of your discharge. Again, I'm discharging about 12 gallons a minute. The velocity of that is such that the calculations imply that that couldn't really happen between me and at least the joining to the metro main somewhere down by KOA, wherever that happens. It certainly couldn't happen prior to that. And then a sidebar to that, the real important thing there is if someone dies, it's because they didn't follow OSHA guidelines for confined space entry. It doesn't matter if you don't have H2S in there at all. If someone goes in a manhole and dies, it's because they didn't follow the procedures for testing. They didn't set up a tripod. They didn't set up a recovery system. It doesn't matter if hydrogen sulfide is down there or not. You can still die. That's the real actual issue there.
Follow up, Commissioner Thatcher.
Thank you, Mr. McKee. Thank you for that answer. And then just to go back on one too, you talked about little loading with your numbers and what your plant discharges. I guess I'm confused because I believe that you were the one that gave us the numbers. Was it $150,000 or something that you were going to spend on one of these fees in here?
Oh, the potential for the fee?
Yes. So I guess I don't understand if it's little loading, how could it cost somebody that much?
Good question. Thank you. So it's again back to the fee. Sorry, guys, get your sign. The fee that's being suggested at this time. That's the only thing it's about. And by going to the EPA guidelines and looking at how the actual impact to the plant, not the just copy pasting a fee structure from another outfit and copy pasting from another city and copy pasting a standard from another city. By doing the actual math of what our plant can take versus what I'm discharging, we'll find out that that fee structure was incorrectly applied. My rates might be as low as $4,000 or $5,000 a month. That's the difference we're talking about here. There will still be a fee, yeah. And I will still be working on pretreatment, but it will be much, much lower.
We can either reconvene. Yeah, we'll probably have to reconvene after the meeting, after the council meeting, just so we can be on schedule. Is everybody good with that? Okay.
Thank you.
Is that the pleasure of the committee? So we will reconvene after the committee of the whole meeting. Thank you.
Could everyone please check in? Sean, check in. All right. Great. Good evening and welcome again. This is now our Committee of the Whole meeting, Wednesday, October 12th. Butte-Silver Borough Council Commissioners. Could I have roll call, please?
8 present, 3 absent, 1 presiding.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioners Menkins, Anderson, and Reardon are, well, they're just excused. And I believe we all got a letter or an email from Commissioner Anderson giving us an update on his health, and it sounds very encouraging, and we hope to see him back really soon. So would you please join Commissioner Sorch and the rest of the council members in their prayer and a pledge?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Fellow Commissioners, Almighty God, we implore you, look upon us and guide us this night as we make decisions which will greatly affect our community of Butte-Silver Borough. Direct our thoughts, words, and deeds so that we please you and best serve our fellow citizens. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioner Sorich. All right, moving on to report of the chair. Well, we have a kind of a full meeting tonight, so I will forego a report. I can say I'm enjoying this wonderful weather. I don't know how much longer it'll last, but that's all I have to say. Section 1, bid openings, public hearings, and/or presentations. We have 2 presentations, and we will begin with item 1. This is communication number 2022-495. Karen Burns, Community Development Director, requesting Council Commissioners' authorization to schedule a presentation for October 12th, 2022, to update the Council on the progress and recommendations related to the courthouse restroom renovation project. Director Burns. Oh. I'm sorry? Oh. Well, I did. Excuse me, Karen. We're going to see if there's any public comment on any item on tonight's agenda. I apologize for my missing that one. Anybody like to comment on any item that's on tonight's agenda? Please come to the podium and give us your name and address for the record. Push the little button. There we go.
Yes, James Dolan, 315 West 4th, Anaconda. Here on the agenda item about the parking garage. I wanted to take a moment out of my evening. It's been a couple weeks. I want to give some, I guess, praise from the standpoint of I think some of the increased policing has helped a lot. Some cleaning activities have taken place, but I think it's one of those issues that you're going to have to keep your foot on the gas somehow to manage. There were still things happening. I've been interviewed by 2 separate television stations. Frankly, I'm kind of tired of being in the limelight a little bit. But that said, I appear in front of you motivated by good citizenship. I appreciate that some attention has been paid, but I think it's going to take kind of a long-term approach. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dolan. Okay. Any other comment on any item that is on tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none. And as you all know, we will be reconvening on the Judiciary Committee after the Committee of the Whole meeting. All right. Director Burns, you're on.
Thank you, Chairman Shaw and members of council. That gave me time to log in correctly, so it was perfect. Anyway, so we have a presentation tonight on the courthouse restroom renovation project. The council added money to the budget last fiscal year for us to get underway with this project. And so last fall, we went out for a request for proposals and interviewed architectural firms and hired SMA architects to conduct this analysis for us. We really delved into this project last spring and worked through a bunch of different information and scenarios, and SMA is here tonight to present to you that process, what we went through, and the conclusions that we've come to, and what our recommendations are moving forward. We had a technical committee that helped advise SMA through this process, made up of myself, the chief executive, the chief of staff. We also had Director Gleason involved, from the Finance and Budget Office, the Planning Department, Building and Code, and also the Historic Preservation Officer, and Shelley Cleverly, our grant writer. So we had quite a few people that took part in this analysis and in looking at the options. I'm going to turn it over to Allie Martin from SMA, and she's going to walk us through the presentation. Thanks, Allie.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, my name is Allie Martin. I'm from SMA Architecture and Design. And just thank you for having us tonight. I've never been so excited about bathrooms before, which is, I think, why we won the interview. But we're excited to share with you kind of our findings and what the study was about. So let's see here if I can just click. All right. So just a quick overview of the process that we went through with the committee. We kind of started out by really just talking about what the priorities were for the project, what we thought the priorities were, what some of the issues had been, kind of some of the obvious things. And then as we took that, we really just wanted to start to balance those things and do a little check of what the wants and needs were, along with historic requirements, some of the available funding, and then also technical requirements. Once we had kind of identified those needs, we started to rank and prioritize, what the project might be. And again, this was really just a study to understand when we came out of it, what a project might be, how things might be phased. And so then, we were able to take that information, do some cost estimating, which led us into really just creating this final report, and that's kind of what we're going to go through today. Sorry, I can't figure out how to do this. So the study really just led us into these 3 different phases that are shown up here, and guided us through the project, and I'll just kind of jump into that. The first part was documentation and evaluation. We walked around with John and looked at all 34 bathrooms in the building. I don't know if anybody knew that there were 34 different restrooms over 5 floors, 6 public restrooms, men's and women's on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd floor, and then there are 28 private restrooms around the whole building. And we looked at old plans to figure out where they were, and then we had to do a little bit of exploring as we walked through the building, but you can see they're kind of just spread all over. One of the really cool things that we did with this project was actually have our engineering group do a LiDAR scan. And that's basically taking a laser scan of both the exterior and the interior of the building. They had 3 different scanners. They actually had a drone that I think they took into the rotunda, right? They also had like a hand scanner and a scanner that they rolled, and I think they did it over like 2 days. They cleared everybody out of the courthouse Friday, Saturday, and came around and scanned the whole thing. And so I'm actually going to do just a quick demo of what that looks like. So you can see this is basically, it's a scan of little points of the building. And this is just an incredible tool that Butte-Silver can use into the future, and has been a great tool for our study, even as we do, look at quantities and takeoffs. And this, let's see here. So I'm going to take a little clip through the top here. I'm going to pull this one out. But you can see you can basically just take a section through the floor plan. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here and actually take that up, pull it over. But it's incredible. It actually scans, desks and pieces of paper. So it's pretty incredible. I'll try to get zoomed in here. Like you can see the level of detail. I think it's like to the 2 to 3 millimeter. which is pretty incredible. And I'll kind of go into the space here. So you can see it's basically just a bunch of like photos. You can look at the bathrooms actually. So really incredible tool that the city county has invested in here that John and Butte-Silver both can continue to use as the building ages and needs more renovations. And I mean, there's some pretty amazing stuff there. So then the next step to that was actually, we had that transformed into what's called, what we use a program called Revit. It's three-dimensional modeling software that we use to create our construction documents. So this is the tool that we use to draw buildings, which is pretty incredible. And so you can see the entire building down to the crown moldings is modeled and documented, which is pretty incredible and probably will continue to be just a great tool for all of you. So alongside that, as we went into every bathroom in the courthouse, we actually had kind of a form that we filled out, and we evaluated every fixture in each bathroom, the finishes, historic elements that were important or notable. We wanted to look at accessibility and then also think about, what's the proximity to public restrooms, if it's a private restroom, things like that. So you can see, the architectural team evaluated. We also had our mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers come in and look at it from their standpoint and how things were kind of looking there. Took lots of photo documentation. This is JP's bathroom, actually. So, yeah, it was nice. Yeah. And then, this is a floor plan from that Revit model that was created. So, just great documentation tool. And then we wanted to have a good way to compare all of the bathrooms against each other. And so this is just all 34 bathrooms. We looked at, the different fixtures, finishes, and ranked them from excellent to poor, so that we could understand kind of the level of need to start making adjustments. So that was the first portion. That was just documenting and understanding what was there. The second part of the project was actually to start coming up with recommendations. So we took those forms and started looking at each of the things that we had addressed and found fixtures, finishes, historic elements, and basically just came up with, what are we going to do with those? Are they going to be cleaned? Are they going to be taken out and replaced? And so again, we did this for each bathroom, as did our mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers. And then alongside looking at each bathroom, we actually had ACE look at the systems. So we had them look at the ventilation, sanitary, domestic water, and I was going to have Bob come up and just talk briefly about that, because there are some complexities to 100-year-old, sanitary lines and such.
Hi, I'm Bob Scott, mechanical engineer. As Ali said, we went through the building and went through what existing plans we could find and took a look at it, and it's really a pretty remarkable building. I mean, it had systems in it that were installed when this building was built that you're just not going to find in buildings of the same vintage. It's really something to be proud of. But they were installed basically in the structure of the building. The ductwork and the rest, it's all concealed in chases coming up through. The air handlers are built in. They're an integral part of the building itself. And while they serve their purpose at the time, they're really not compatible with serving the purpose that we need to meet present codes regarding ventilation, exhaust, and the rest. So the initial ventilation system that's in the building is probably not something that can be reused and be revitalized for this building. But the other aspect is there are exhaust chases that serve, if not every restroom, but the vast majority of the restrooms. The ductwork comes up in chases, comes up to a fan system up in the attic, and that has been, it's not functional at this time. The motors are old DC motors and very large, and can't really be rebuilt. But we could come in and reconnect install new modern motors, get the ductwork continuous, and make those chases be functional so that we could have exhaust out of all the restrooms. There currently isn't exhaust from the restrooms other than a few isolated cases. So that's something that we could use the infrastructure that's built into the building and supplement it with a modern fan and some ductwork and make that be functional, which is one of the things that we decided would be a very good move to move forward with. Regarding the sanitary plumbing, we're talking about, for the most part, plumbing that's 100 years old or a little over 100. And so we're trying not to disrupt that if it's in good condition and not leaking. But where we're making revisions with the restrooms, we're moving fixtures, we're taking fixtures out of one area, creating some new bathrooms in another, then we would of course come in and put in all new plumbing through there, come over and try to make one tap into the existing risers for the waste system and try to get that all set up with minimal disruption to the existing older lines. So that's kind of the approach that we're taking along there. We're also looking at any of those fixtures and restrooms where there is much going on for revisions. We would replace the hot water and the cold water lines just simply due to their age and to try to avoid any future leaks or problems that could arise from that. The electrical system, or I guess still on the plumbing, most of the bathrooms don't have hot water available to them. A lot of them have just cold water. A number of them have small instant hot water units right under the counter that serve that fixture, maybe another fixture, and there's a few of them that are on a riser that is served by a common domestic water heater that's located in the basement. So the other suggestion that we put forward in this is that we should combine those systems where possible, where we have the chases coming up through, where we have restrooms that are stacked. We'll get a domestic water system in there with a recirc line, get hot water to all of the restrooms, bring it up through and get all of those functioning and working correctly like they should. For the isolated rooms where we don't have the ability of stacked restrooms, we would come and put in the small supplemental systems and get hot water to all of the restrooms and get all of that properly connected. Regarding the lighting, there's a lot of historic fixtures in the restrooms, at least in the public restrooms. So we were trying to preserve those as much as we can, but supplement them with something that's complementary because the lighting levels are too low typically in those rooms. So we would try to reuse those, get something complementary, put those in, and try to get that lighting system up to the levels that it's supposed to be. So those are the basic items that we looked at. Make sure that any electrical outlets, we'd have GFCI on them to meet the codes, and that's kind of the issues that we looked at. We're just following the direction regarding where restrooms are going and what we're relocating, reusing, and the rest. All the fixtures that are in good or excellent condition would likely remain in place and be reused. The ones that are in conditions below good or excellent, we would look at replacing with current fixtures. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from council for our SMA partners?
Unless you want to address any of the MEP.
I'm sorry.
I said I do have more to go over.
Oh, okay.
Unless you
Very
wanna
good.
jump into.
Any questions on?
I'll hold on.
You want to wait? Okay, very good. Okay. Go ahead, Ally.
I have lots more good stuff here. So again, we took that same list and just started to look at what we would recommend based on kind of what Bob said, where if something is excellent or good, it would remain. If something was able to be repaired more along the lines of finishes, we would do those things. If it was below, it would be replaced. So you can see all the red is replaced. Blue is remain. There's a lot of red and yellow up there. There's actually only 3 bathrooms that really didn't need any work, and they look great, but there's only 3 of them. So you can see there's a bit of work to do. So the next part of this, after we kind of looked at what's there, was to really take a hard look at the public restrooms. both on the first, second, and third floor. The most, I guess, the greatest options to make some changes were on the first floor. And so we kind of took a look at, the existing men's restroom space, the existing women's restroom. You can see that the mix of men and women that worked in the courthouse in 1912 were a bit different than now, and so there's quite a few more men's fixtures and just a huge, big men's restroom down there. And at one point there were 2 women's fixtures, but there's only one now, and that door is pretty hard to open. So we knew this was really a high priority on the list of things to kind of take a look at. And so we ended up looking at 4 different options. So the first, second, and third option, I'll just talk through them real quick. We looked at adding a family restroom in all of the options. Just a great way I have 2 little kids, so I love family restrooms. But also just another way to have some flexibility for all genders. And then we looked at, I think some of the main things is just to think about accessibility, make sure that we have some of the accessible stalls people can get to, lavatories, and then also have the proper number of fixtures to each gender. So the first option is basically to move a family restroom into the women's, and then move the men's and women's into that kind of chunk of space that was the planning restroom, utility, and the men's restroom. So you can see that option. Then the second and third options, we looked at actually moving the men's restroom into where the women's was. And then in one option, keeping the planning restroom and the custodial, and in the other option, just making more space for the women's restroom and the family restroom. After weighing some of these and thinking about, reusing sanitary, a lot of the sanitary to those restrooms are actually embedded in really thick concrete. So it just makes it kind of interesting to try to reconfigure everything. And also just thinking about sequencing of construction, we came to option 4, where we actually looked at moving GIS out of their space, and then moving a men's, a women's, and a family restroom into that GIS space. So you can see the existing on the left and the proposed on the right. The ability to clean the courthouse with a large custodial room was also considered. So that's where, that's kind of what took over the women's restroom. And then GIS would actually move into that existing men's restroom, and we would take out the planning restroom and that custodial space, so they'd have a direct connection to planning. So there's kind of where we landed on the first floor public restrooms. One great thing about this option is, you could keep the existing restrooms online, move GIS out, get those restrooms ready, and then, do the demo in the other spaces. So the restrooms on the first floor could stay functional during construction. Second and third floor public restrooms, there wasn't a lot to do here, but not a lot of space to work with, but we knew we needed an accessible stall for each restroom, and we also knew that we needed to increase the women's number of fixtures and get the proper number of lavatories. So in this option, we proposed taking over part of that light well, actually adding a secure, a door into that space so that they can easily get in and out. It's less space, but still usable for them. And then kind of keeping, you can see here on some of these sidewalls, we actually are able to keep some of those historic relights that used to be into the light well. So we're still able to tell some of that historic story. That's so interesting. I think leading into that, we really wanted to think a lot about, historically appropriate finishes and plumbing fixtures. And so that's one thing I just really wanted to cover. The fabric of those restrooms is really cool, but it's, dated, and we think the marble is just great. So I think, our plan would be to reclaim as much of the marble as we can and reuse it. I think that, we try to repair and repaint plaster and match new gypboard to the plaster texture. And then as far as, you know, some of the finishes, like the tile, with the terrazzo floors, with some of the cutting and stuff, it's kind of difficult to just make those look nice. So we would propose either doing a tile that looks like terrazzo or use a historically appropriate tile like you saw in some of those bathrooms that haven't been redone. So really, we want to reuse what we can, and then what we can't reuse, we would really try to match what's historically there, because we think that's really what makes these bathrooms so interesting and unique. The first one was the public restrooms. The second one is the private restrooms. The approach with the private restrooms is really just to kind of clean them up, repaint them, replace fixtures, do what we can, more cosmetic work rather than really reconfiguring them. So then onto the next part was really trying to prioritize what these phases might be, because you know, taking it all in one chunk may not be doable. So we looked at breaking it up into phases depending on, you know, what's most needed. So as a group, we looked at phase 1 being the first floor public restrooms. So we did work with a local contractor that works all over the state of Montana to work to, you know, talk to subs, do material takeoffs. Again, the model was amazing because they could actually use that Revit model and do accurate takeoffs, you know, measure the floors, the walls. So that was, again, a great tool. But so they looked at kind of, you know, the costs are a little crazy right now. Looked at the cost, both kind of at the minimum, the maximum, and then they took the mean number. And so this is what we saw for the first floor restrooms. We also had them price the second and third floor public restrooms. One part of that is the galvanized pipe replacement, which, you know, has a range of $200,000 to $250,000 for the plumbing. And then phase 3 was to address the private restrooms. We felt, you know, there was a feeling as a group that those were less of a priority than the public restrooms, and making sure that there was accessible restrooms on the first, second, and third floor, and that we had enough, you know, as many fixtures as we could provide. Okay, I think that was it. And I can jump back up if we need to. Thank you. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that,
Yes.
excuse
Director
me,
Burns.
Madam Chair, and members of council, I did leave someone out of our committee, and that was John Sullivan. He played an integral role, as you might imagine, in this committee, him and his staff, and they were so helpful to our consultants and working, coming in on the weekend to help with everything. So I want to thank John specifically, because we couldn't have gotten any of this done without him. So thank you. Sorry, John, I didn't mean to leave you out. And so I also just wanted to really quickly, before you ask some questions, I hope you have some, because this has been really kind of a fun project. Like Ali said, who knew bathrooms could be kind of exciting, but we're kind of excited about it. So you had allocated $500,000 into the budget to start addressing this project. The contract with SMA and the work done to date, we're not fully paid out on that contract yet, but it was around $77,000, $80,000. And so we do have some funds to work with to start off, you know, figuring out how we want to move this forward. And so we will work with the budget office and others in proposing to you how we would like to move this project forward into the next phases, because I feel like we shouldn't stop, right? We need to keep going, and I do believe we want to prioritize those public restrooms on the first floor for sure. They need to be addressed. And so we'd move forward with that as our next step and our next phases in working on getting bid documents done and working toward procuring some work to actually happen. The other part of this is we do have these boards that kind of depict the project that SMA was able to put together for us. We'll put these in the rotunda so the public can see them and look at them and see, you know, maybe we'll get some comments. Probably we'll get some, right? But also the presentation that was given tonight, I will send it out so that you all will all have that after tonight. So now I'll turn it back over to Ali.
All right. Well, are there any questions from council members? Commissioner Sorich?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentations. I'm really glad to see something, we're starting to look at these old buildings. We talk historic preservation. I think we got to walk the walk by doing it. So I'm glad that we are looking at doing it. But I also believe that we need to look at all avenues. Saying that, was there any discussions, you said there's 35 bathrooms, is there any discussions if 35 bathrooms are needed? That's a lot of bathrooms. Is there a possibility of reducing some of these bathrooms down to, reduce some of the costs?
I don't know. Yeah, we did talk
Ally?
about it a little bit. I know we have identified one bathroom, the GIS bathroom that's going to be next to the public restrooms. That one can definitely be taken offline, but I think there's potential, I think that we can identify there's some hesitancy to take people's bathrooms away, I think, so.
Follow up.
Director Burns?
Thank you, Commissioner Sorich and Commissioner Shaw and members of council. So the way that we looked at this project is that we wanted all of the evaluation done on all of the restrooms, but we wanted to make it very clear that we were prioritizing the public restrooms over anything else. And so that would be our first recommendation, is to move forward with those public restrooms, and whether that be just the first floor to start, that would be something that we would look at first. That was the number one priority, is those public restrooms. And then the remaining restrooms, the remaining 28 restrooms that are into existence, that would be much further down on the list of something that we'd need to address. It would be more of a want in some situations, but there could be portions of that we could look at addressing, like hot water, right? That might be something we might want to consider into a few of these restrooms. And we could prioritize these down even further into, well, do we really need all 28 or 25? So it's more discussion. But I want to say for sure we'd prioritize those public restrooms.
Thank you.
Commissioner Shea?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can't resist asking the question about, are you able to recreate the wooden toilet seats?
Oh, no, we have a picture.
I did get a picture of those ones on there. I know there's a couple in the committee that would like to find a way to put them on the wall or some way incorporate them into the
Sorry, this is a
design.
little informal, but our historic preservation officer would like to hang them on the wall.
So we could have an auction, but here's my thought. Commissioner Fisher brought this up originally, and he used to say those wooden toilet seats. So in 1912, the Titanic went down. He said that he thinks they came from the Titanic. And I really believe that Commissioner Fisher could get one of those wooden toilet seats. Yeah, that would be my suggestion. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Commissioner Fisher?
Thank you, Chairman Shaw. Thank you, everyone that put the effort into this. It has been a long battle. I've been on the council for 10 years. I've been working on this for 8. And I appreciate Karen Burns taking the bull by the horns after I got the money into the budget. The council approved it. And it's a great step forward. We talk about historic buildings. We have the crown jewel. This is the people's house in Butte-Silver County. And I don't want to see it stop here. I want to see the restrooms go. And I want to see this courthouse maybe one day get a bond issue for $8 to $10 million and fix it and make it the crown jewel that we all deserve, because some of us are getting a little older. We're not going to see the end of it, but some of these younger people, my dear friend here, Hattie, next to me, she can see this through for me. So appreciate all you did, and I thank you for your time.
Any other council members? Okay. Bob, Ally, Karen, and John, thank you very much for all the work you put into this. It's been a long time coming, and I still think we need to get one of those wooden toilet seats for Commissioner Fisher, I'm just saying. Okay, thank you very much. And I believe Director Burns said she'd be sending us a copy of the overhead. All right, moving on to item 2. This is a second presentation. Communication number 2022-504. Shauna Yates, Southwest Montana Community Health Center Director, requesting Council's of Commissioners authorization to have a presentation on October 12th, 2022 about Southwest Montana Community Health Center's operations, services, and programs. Dr. Yates, welcome.
Madam Chair, thank you, and the rest of the council. I don't know if any of you got to see it. I can see that you all worked very hard, probably all day, and then showed up here. But the sky tonight was what I would call a cotton candy sky, that beautiful blue with the pink in it, and it was just made my heart go pitter-patter on the way up here. So I just want to thank you all for your service and for being here, and really thank you for allowing me to have a few minutes tonight. I won't take too much time. I first just want to ask, did you guys get the handout in your packet that I sent ahead? And if not, I have some here to put around the room. So there's two. There's this page and then this page. There you go. Yeah. Madam Chair, may I continue?
Dr. Yates, please continue.
Thank you. So my name is Shauna Yates. I'm a family physician. I have worked at Community Health Center for the last 15 years. It was my first position after residency. I'm a National Health Service Scholar, which means that I grew up in a small Montana town, and I agreed to have the government provide me with a scholarship to go to medical school and then to return to a community that has an underserved population. So this is my home. This is where I return. This is who I want to care for. I work at Community Health. I love the name Community Health, and the reason why I am out here today is to help everybody in our community understand just a little bit more about who Community Health is, what we do, the services we provide, and why I hope all of you will do everything in your power to support some of the things that we have on the horizon. I want to say thank you to this commission around the idea that we had 2 of the ARPA grants provided to us in the summer. And those 2 grants we are putting to great use. So number 1, our building is down on Centennial Avenue. It's an old building. The health center has been in existence since 1986, and we are a nonprofit. We have completely outgrown our building, and we have 180 employees amongst our 3 sites. So at this point, the money that we received in one of those ARPA grants is being put forth for a feasibility study. We also are working with SMA. We hired them in the summer to start a feasibility study to provide us with a PAR at the end, hopefully even with some drawings, with the intent that then we would start looking at funding and hopefully build a new site on the location where we are right now. And so that is one of the things through all of this study we have learned, is that the community really loves where we are located and would like us to stay in that location. The second grant that we received, we are putting money toward a program that's called a RAP program. So RAP was named by the initial community health workers that we hired, but we hired a couple of individuals to work in the role of a community health worker. So these are trained individuals that go out into the community, boots on the ground, walking the streets of Butte, helping and working with our chronically homeless population. And so we've had a couple of fantastically successful stories. One is a gentleman that has been housed now for 6 months. He is no longer visiting the ER approximately 6 to 12 times in a month because he has a person that he calls when he needs some assistance. And so he is a grand success story. We would like to see that be a success story with each person in our community who is struggling with housing insecurity. The form that I provided for you today is something that we put together mostly to help you guys see all of the services that we provide. I think a lot of times when people think of community health, they think of a clinic that was designed to serve the uninsured. Yes, we receive a grant from the federal government that does help us to cover the cost of those individuals who are living below the federal poverty line and who need assistance with medical care. But we're also a private nonprofit clinic. We take all health insurance, private health insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, and we do assist those who are uninsured. We provide a whole gamut of services, from medical services to dental services to behavioral health services, and the list continues to grow. Over the last couple of years, we added a site in Anaconda, and we do have a site down in Dillon. One of our greatest services that you'll see on this list is the first one there. It's the pharmacy. So we have 3 retail pharmacies. One is in Sheridan, one is in Butte, and one is in Dillon. And the Pac-Man, the first bullet on there, is our newest program that we are offering to the citizens of this community. So this is a way for people, especially people who are on a number of medications, to have their medications packaged, go to the pharmacy once a month or once every 3 months, and they just have to pull them out. This would be like their Monday AM pills. All of the pills are listed on the side, and as you can see, they pull them out of the box, and it provides them with the next dose. So this helps eliminate that need for family members to set up pill boxes. It helps with reminders. It makes it a little bit less cumbersome, because I know working with patients, you know, the names and what medications are for is really, it's a daunting task for a lot of people. So we've had great success with this. It's a robot that we purchased with some of the funds that we received through ARPA and through the COVID dollars that came down from the federal government. And so we believe individuals are going to really enjoy this service. One of the things that it does is it helps with adherence. It means that if I have high blood pressure and I take my high blood pressure medication every day of the month, the chances of controlling my blood pressure are highly more successful if I'm taking my medicine, and it also helps prevent strokes, right? So that's a huge outcome that would be good for patients. We currently have 4 dentists. We have a free dental day on Friday for kids, and then we have walk-in services to anybody. First thing in the morning, people can come down and get on the walk-in list if they have an emergency. One of the things that we don't do in our dental clinic is dentures. We do everything else, though, and so it's a full spectrum dental clinic. If you look at the mental health services, we do have a psychiatrist on staff, and one of the things that this psychiatrist came to us, he trained with us as a student. He went away to residency, and then he came back. He worked for about a year, and at the end of the year, he asked me to reduce his hours to 1 day a week, and he wanted to work at the prison for 4. And I said to him, Dr. Sonneman, what's the reason for that? I really need to understand, because we need your services so much. He said, because I don't feel like I can help people. The network for our mental health care is broken, and I feel like I'm working in the wild, wild west, and I don't have anywhere to get people help. I can see them, I can prescribe them medications, but if there isn't the wraparound support services to help, it makes it really difficult to help people get on a program, get their mental health in control, and then, you know, start to find housing, be able to stay at work, all the et ceteras that we know help when people are thinking clearly. So that was one of the reasons why we have a psychiatrist 1 day a week. But it is an area in the mental health services that, as you all know, we continue to work very hard on trying to make sure that the wraparound service is there for people, and we can help make sure that they're not falling through the cracks. We do have medical teams. We have about 15 providers. One of the reasons why people say they don't go to community health center is because they say the medical providers turn over all the time. I have 8 providers who have been there more than 10 years. And so in this world, a lot of people think about a career in 5-year chunks. The doctors of today are not like the doctors of Dr. Pullman's time and Dr. Sidaway's time, where they came to a clinic and came to a community and they stayed for 30 or 40 years of a career. People do move around, but I think we're creating a work environment where people do want to stay, and we've had people who have stayed well beyond the 4 to 5 year mark. And so I think it's an important thing for the community to hear that although, yes, people turn over, I don't think our providers are turning over as much as people believe they are. We do some palliative care service, so I'm actually a geriatric physician, and one of the things that I think is unique to our clinic that I don't think any other clinic is doing is we provide home care. So I'm seeing patients in their home. I saw a 97-year-old woman in her home today, so she didn't have to get a ride to the clinic, sit in the waiting room with other sick people. She's 97, so just being 97 makes her a little bit frailer and a little bit more at risk. So this is a service that we know there are many individuals we can extend this service to, and it's a service I would love to see grow over the next 5 years. Really quickly, just 2 or 3 more points. On page 2, there's a couple stats I really want the council to know. Southwest Montana Community Health Center sees 14,446 individuals. So if you think about the population of our county, we're seeing a lot of them. So we have a huge impact. We are a safety net, and so we do provide something called a sliding fee. So if an individual walks into the clinic tomorrow and they don't have health insurance, the first thing that will happen is they will get an opportunity to meet with somebody who can help them determine, Can I get you onto the market? Do you qualify for Medicaid? They're going to do everything in their power to try to figure out how can we get this person covered. And then if that individual doesn't want health insurance or has other barriers to getting covered, then they fall into this program called the sliding fee program, which allows us to give people highly discounted rates, $10, $20 for visits, if they meet the federal poverty guidelines. And so the middle paragraph down there by the red does tell you a little bit about how much people are making to meet those guidelines. So an individual at 100% is $13,590. For a family of 4 at that 100% is 27, and we go up to 200% of poverty. So that means a family of 4 at $55,000 a year qualifies to be on the sliding fee. So you don't have to be uninsured to be on the sliding fee. Say you work for a company and they have health insurance for you, but your health insurance is a $5,000 deductible, and you're living on an income like this. You are now considered underinsured, meaning you have almost a catastrophic plan, but you don't have anything that really helps you go to the doctor and get regular care. And so those individuals now also qualify on this sliding fee and can get health care at a highly discounted rate that you would pay at a retail clinic. Our clinic is broken up about in that circle up there, so we still have about 18% of our patients are uninsured. When before Medicaid expanded, that number was closer to 40% of the patients in this community were uninsured. We are seeing 23% of the Medicare, 30% of the Medicaid, and 29% of private. So we have kind of a mix of all different types of individuals. The second page that I did give to you is about economic impact, and that was provided to us by a company called Capital Link. They did it for all of the community health centers in the state of Montana. The biggest takeaway there that I think is really important for people to know is how many individuals we do employ. We're a very large work organization. Some of them are highly compensated professionals, and some of them are very entry-level jobs, which are community health workers, are entry-level jobs that we're providing training to people who live in the community. And then, you know, there is the tax base. The other thing that's been known across the country is community health centers reduce the overall cost of healthcare in general, the big global picture. So when we think about how many dollars we're spending for Medicaid and how many dollars we're spending for Medicare as taxpayers, health centers are a great way to keep that number of dollars down because our cost per patient is much less than most clinics, and there's great data out there about that. So I'm here today to say thank you for both of those awards because we are putting the money to good use. We did make our quarterly reports this last week. I'm also here to say that our vision is to have a new building, but even if the building doesn't come, we will continue to create new programs and different ways to serve the community, Butte-Silver, Dillon, and Anaconda, which is where we have our clinics. Be happy to take any questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Yates. A lot of times I think of community health as being on the cutting edge of progress. You know, you now have your critical care unit, and it's open 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to use it a couple times myself. And during COVID, I mean, you guys were just heroes, honestly. You know, thank you for all of that. So,
Thank you.
any questions for Dr. Yates? Commissioner Shea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have a question, but I would like to really thank Dr. Yates for coming and explaining what great work the Community Health Center does in the community. As most people know, most of us have day jobs. My day job is at Community Health Center, and I've never worked with a better group of people, and I've never worked with a group that met the mission and the vision of an organization the way that you do. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. The compassion, and it shows. Thank you for everything.
You betcha. Thank you. You guys have a
Okay.
good evening.
I think that'll do it. Thanks again. All right, so moving on to section 2, communications. Item 1 is communication number 2022-444, James Dolan, 315 West 4th Street, Anaconda, requesting council commissioners to address the general decline in the condition of the parking structure located on West Park Street. The municipal parking structure on West Park Street needs some serious attention before someone becomes sick and or injured by the physical conditions that appear to be currently unabated and or tolerated there. And I'm going to defer to our chief executive. I ask him for an update. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I'll give you an update of where we're at, and I think that you might be able to move this along after tonight. We have been making a lot of progress at the parking garage. A couple things that we've done, we've completely cleaned out the whole parking structure. We continue to power spray the bathrooms and the stairwells and clean up areas of the parking garage. The police are doing drive-throughs of it. Today we hired, or we extended the person that cleans the bathrooms of the parks during the summer, and we're going to continue to have that person continue to work for us to do cleaning at the parking garage on a daily basis, as well as, and gives us a little bonus, is that we will keep the bathrooms open on the Greenway Trail. We have 4 bathrooms out on the Greenway Trail that now we will keep open that normally we would close down in the winter months. So she'll continue to do that for us, but her main priority will be cleaning the bathrooms and the parking garage. We're going to continue with the Parks and Recreation, power spraying and doing things there. We are working with Corey, with our transportation department. We're thinking about relocating the bus pickup and drop off away from that area. And one of the reasons why we're going to do that is because there's many people that hang out there, and when the police come and question them, they say they're waiting for the bus when really they're just hanging out there for most of the day. So if we move that, it might move some of those issues away from there a little bit. So we're looking at what that will look like. We're fixing the security gate. It's being replaced now. We've ordered some lighting for out in front of the building to take care of those things, and working with John Sullivan with the building department and community enrichment. We've made a lot of progress. All of our departments are working with that, and then we'll continue to see if full-time security is needed at that time. But we're going to be putting a parking attendant in there too in one of the kiosks. So those are things. I think that's a lot. I think we can move this along. Mr. Dolan was right. We got to continue to move forward with this, but it will be a moving target throughout the whole time. And I don't know if there's a one-size-fits-all on this. With the number of homeless people that we have that roam around that look for shelter, we still will have issues, but we have a lot of eyes on the garage right now. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chief Executive. Any questions on this item? What is the pleasure of the council? What to do with this communication? Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chairman Shaw. Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. As Mr. Durkin, I think, Dolan said tonight, it's a never-ending project, but you've done a great job, you and your team, getting to this point, and it's a never-ending issue, but congratulations on what you did. And I would make a motion that we note and place on file communication 2022-444.
Second.
We have a motion to place communication, to note and place communication 2022-444 on file. We have a second. Is there anything on the question? Would everyone please vote? And would the clerk please record the vote?
9 yea, 0 nay.
9 yea, 0 nay. Motion passes. Okay, moving on to item 2, we have communication number 2022-469. Kelly Sullivan, Headwaters RC&D Area, Inc., requesting Council of Commissioners concurrence to have representatives from the Montana Department of Environmental Quality, including Jason Seiler, give a presentation to the full council on Wednesday, October 5th. We had that presentation. Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to place communication number 2022-469 on file.
We have a motion and a second to place communication 2022-469 on file. Anything on the question? Would everyone please vote? And would the clerk please record the vote?
9 yea, 0 nay.
9 yea, 0 nay. Motion passes. Item 3, communication number 2022-486. John Sullivan, Government Building Manager, requesting Council's Commissioners' authorization to allow the request for proposals to be open on October 5th, 2022 regarding the Mother Lode Theater Fire Annunciation Alarm System Design Build. We did also have that request for proposals opening on October 5th. Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to place communication number 2022-486 on file.
We have a motion and a second to place communication 2022-486 on file. Is there anything on the question? Would everyone please vote? Would anyone care to change their vote? Would the clerk please record the vote?
9 yeas, 0 nay.
9 yeas, 0 nay. Motion passes. Item 4, communication 2022-491. Maria Pochovina, Tibbetts Secretary, requesting Council Commissioners authorization for a presentation of the fiscal year 2023 work plan and budget for the Butte-Silver Tourism Business Improvement District, TIBID, and to request a public hearing on October 5th, 2022, to present the fiscal year 2023 work plan and budget. We had both that presentation and the public hearing last week. Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to place communication number 2022-491 on file.
We have a motion and a second to place communication 2022-491 on file. Is there anything on the question? Would everyone please vote? Would the clerk please record the vote?
9 yeas, 0 nay.
9 yeas, 0 nay. Motion passes. Item 5, communication number 2022-494. Robert Farron, 3501 Hancock Avenue, Butte, Montana, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization to purchase a parcel of land owned by Butte-Silver. The property is on the west boundary of 2935 Richardson Street, Butte, Montana. I plan to put an entry-level price single-family dwelling on the property. I believe there was a Land Sales Committee meeting today, earlier this morning, so we will just hold this in abeyance, awaiting their recommendation back to us. Okay. Item 6, communication 2022-495. Karen Burns, Community Development Director, requesting Council Commissioners authorization to schedule a presentation for October 12th, 2022, to update the Council on the progress and recommendations related to the courthouse restroom renovation project. We just had that presentation. Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to place communication number 2022-495 on file.
We have a motion and a second to place communication 2022-495 on file. Any questions? Everyone please vote. Anyone care to change their vote? And would the clerk please record the vote?
9 yeas, 0 nay.
9 yeas, 0 nay. Motion passes. Item 7, communication number 2022-502. Ann Shea, Deputy County Attorney, requesting of Council of Commissioners authorization to have the Chief Executive Gallagher accept grant funding for the Residential Substance Abuse Treatment Program, RSAT, in our local detention facility, and to schedule a public hearing for October 19th regarding 2022 regarding this unanticipated revenue. We did accept the grant funding, and we are awaiting the public hearing on October 19th, so we'll hold this in abeyance. Item 8, communication number 2022-504. Shauna Yates, Southwest Montana Community Health Center Director, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization to have a presentation on October 12th, 2022 about Southwest Montana Community Health Center's operations, services, and programs. And we just had that presentation. Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to place communication number 2022-504 on file.
We have a motion and a second to place communication 2022-504 on file. Is there anything on the question? Everyone please vote. Would anyone care to change their vote? Would the clerk please record the vote?
9 yeas, 0 nay.
9 yeas, 0 nay. Motion passes. Okay, I won't forget this one this time. Is there any public comment on any public matter not on tonight's agenda? I don't see any takers, so I don't believe there's anything else to come before us. So Commissioner Shea?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was asked to update the council that Commissioner Anderson is safely on the ground in Bozeman.
Awesome. Thank you. And before we adjourn, just a reminder that we are reconvening our Judiciary Committee meeting right down here in about 2 seconds. So I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Against? Okay, thank you very much, everyone.